All right, welcome to an unofficial episode of the Comic Watchers. Tonight we have a returning guest, Mark Russell, who's so been here so many times that I don't know, has a place, has his own dressing room. I don't know.
Yeah,
How's it going, Mark?
returning guest is putting it politely. I feel like I never leave. No, things were going great. Just always enjoyed coming on.
Well, we're here to talk for a little bit about the project you're involved with, Ahoy Comics' first Kickstarter, Forgotten Divine. So, before we get started talking about the book itself, how do what do you know about, why Ahoy decided to go with the Kickstarter for this project?
Well, I think it was something they were planning to do for a while. They were just kind of waiting for the right project, and this one I think they chose because it's sort of easy to describe. It's something you can write a decent elevator pitch for, and also it's it's kind of too short to be released as a graphic novel, but too long to be released as a one shot in a store. So it kind of felt like maybe this was the right manifestation of Forgotten Divine. And the advantage of that to me was that they were willing to let me just write the story for the length it needed to be, instead of like trying to fill out a predetermined number of pages to fit a format, which is my favorite way to write. I've written a few issues like that, like some weird blanks, like 48 pages or 44 pages. This one's 64, and with the extras, I think it's going to be like 76. But to me, the advantage of that is like right, it's like you are tailoring the clothes to the person and not, pretending to shrink or grow to fit the clothes. And to be able to write a story until it was done and not have any additional pages that you didn't need, or being forced to take some out that you really needed to have in the story, was a great luxury. And I think it really it shows in the work. I think it shows in the stories at once very tight, and yet everything feels like naturally paced. And I feel like the story's really made better by the fact that they let me do this weird length.
So, tell us, what is the short pitch for the book?
Well, this is kind of what fascinated me about the story as writing it. But it's the story of a cult as told by the members themselves, from the perspective of the people inside it. So I think it would be very easy to write a story about a cult that's just sort of like making fun of them or laughing at them, or because I feel like this is our natural reaction to people in cults. Well, I would never be that stupid, right? What were they thinking? Uh, but I think it's far more challenging and far more interesting to write a story from the perspective of the people in it, to understand why they would join a group like this and why they would stay. And it's not clear throughout the story whether or not what they believe is actually, false, or whether or not they believe they're the ones who are right. Which I think is the way you have to approach a story like that, if you're trying to tell it from the perspective of the members of the cult, because they don't see themselves as crazy. They don't see themselves as they see themselves as a holy mission, or the impossibility of trying to explain a truth that no one else is going to understand. And I feel like that's kind of becomes what binds them all together. Less so that these visions are having this alien world, and more just that they realize that nobody's going to believe them when they try to tell them about it.
So, is this allegorical to a certain cult that we know that exists today? Or because I know that your work is always layered.
No, sadly, or for better, it is always layered, but for better or for worse, it is not meant to be a one-to-one comparison for any existing cult, political or religious. But what I found when I was writing it is that really kind of what the unintended metaphor was, is that this is kind of what it feels like to be a writer. It's like I am trying to draw upon a reality that I am seeing that I can't really explain, and I'm not sure if it's going to work. But when somebody else gets it, it makes me feel a connection. It makes me feel like
Mhm.
we're part of a club. And so, in a way, I mean, it is about cults, but in a way, it's also sort of about working in the arts, about how you are, you know, receiving these visions from God knows where, and you're just trying to express them in a way that doesn't make you sound crazy, but that allows you to be true to what you are seeing and hearing inside yourself.
So who are the main characters that we follow in the story, and um, how did you come up with
The main
kind of
character is Rodney
creating them?
Coleman. Yeah,
Okay.
the main character is Rodney Coleman, and he is a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, and he's suffering from PTSD. And at first, when he has these visions of this alien world, he just sort of assumes this is a byproduct of the PTSD. And it's only when he meets other people who are having the same visions he realizes, no, this is something bigger. This is like something that's real. Uh, and then one of the other people that starts having visions is his VA psychiatrist, who's at first trying to talk him down from this reality until he realizes that he's experiencing it too. And there's other characters. There's a trucker. There's a woman who works at like a plant nursery. At first, it's like just people in the area around Arizona, but soon it becomes like a worldwide cult as people begin experiencing these visions and start seeking out this group to sort of figure out collectively what they mean. In fact, they go through a series of iterations of what they're called. At first, they're called the witnesses because they're witnessing this alien world that they don't understand. Then they start they're afraid they're going to get mistaken for Jehovah's Witnesses, or they get Jehovah's Witnesses showing up at their doors. They're, well, we better change the name. So they go through a few attempts until somebody comes up with a theory that really that what they're seeing is the world as it should be, the world that's the real world, and that they are sort of the imperfect, the corrupt sort of imaginary world is the world. And so they begin calling themselves the Forgotten Divine. So this is like the a true and pure spiritual realm that they're remembering. Uh, they're waking up from their corrupt human bodies, and it is kind of like this is very much, I think, how cults and I think how art works is that you are living in this mundane reality. It's like half the comic takes place in this gritty, sort of sandy, Arizona strip mall sort of world, and then the other half is this colorful, surreal, you know, frightening, but also kind of um, a spectacular alien landscape. And it's like if you had the choice, why wouldn't you live in the latter? And I think this is kind of what draws a lot of people to cults. It's like, well, it's so much more interesting than my regular life. It draws upon a part of me that wouldn't exist without it. And it's not so much about whether or not it's true or not. It's about I need this is why they believe it feeds something in me that otherwise would starve.
And it sounds like you're definitely flexing some different creative muscles than say with dog tags. Your one of your other current projects that you were working on.
Which one's that?
Dog tags.
Oh yeah, so Dog Tag, it's a war comic, and
Mm-hmm.
sorry, I think we got caught up in a little delay there. But yeah, Dog Tag is a war comic. It's set in the last year of World War II, and it's told through the lens of this journalist who is kind of he writes a human interest article like just life on the base, sort of funny little stories that he notices on base. But then the army hires him to write his column about this non-existent base in Dover, England, to help convince the Germans that the invasion is coming from Dover to Calais, which it wasn't. Obviously
Mm-hmm.
it came in Normandy, but but if this guy's writing this stupid, podunk article in Stars and Stripes about life on the base in Dover, England, and he's talking about tank races and ketchup drinking contests and stuff. The Germans figured there must be a ton of people in Dover, that must be where the invasion's coming from. So he helps sell the D-Day deception, and then he actually after it works, after D-Day is successful, he gets called to go fight in France for the rest of the war. So he decides, well, now I'm going to write about the war as it's really happening. I'm not going to make up these fake stories. I'm going to write about the war as it's really happening. But he quickly realizes this is something he can never publish in any sort of magazine. No one will publish it because it's too stark and grim. So he writes it down in his diary, thinking that someday later, after the war, when the world is ready, he'll publish the book. And this is kind of like we're as he's writing it.
So I think, I don't know if you heard my initial question. I was saying it sounds like you have to kind of flex different creative muscles, dog tags and the Forgotten Divine, because they're two different kinds of stories.
Oh yeah, for sure. Sorry, I think it got a little muddled. But yeah, no, it's very true, and I think it works better that way. I prefer jostling back and forth between very different projects, because I feel like when I get writer's block or when I write myself in a corner on one, it's really nice to be able to work on something that's completely unlike it, because I'm exercising different muscles, and it gives my subconscious a chance to take a whack at the first story that had me kind of stymied. And usually when I'm taking a shower or not thinking, overtly about the story, that's when I make my best breakthroughs. And my subconscious is sort of working on it in the back of my head.
So I know, am I correct that Russ Braun is working on the art of Forgotten Divine with you?
That's correct. Yeah, no, Russ is working on the Forgotten Divine, and he did such a great job because, like I mentioned earlier, it goes back and forth between the mundane, sort of underwhelming reality of Rodney and everyone's life, like in these sort of dusty towns in like second-rate motels, to like this unbelievable, sort of gorgeous but also kind of scary alien world that they don't understand. And he nails both so well that I think it really is kind of the secret sauce of the project. The fact that you really get the dichotomy between the world they live in and the world they're experiencing in their minds. And it's sort of no contest. It's sort of like they all want, like, they're all much more preoccupied with the world they're experiencing in these visions.
Now, how did you get paired up with Russ? Was it Tom and at Ahoy that kind of, I guess, finessed the partnership?
Sorry, that question didn't come.
Sorry, it must be having some signal. I was going to say, how did you guys get paired up for the project? Was it Tom and the other people at Ahoy that kind of set it up, or did you have a say in wanting to work with Russ?
Yeah, it was. Well, I've always wanted to work with Russ. I didn't know the problem with getting an artist on a project, you no doubt know, is the timing, like who's available. But it was, so I rarely put artists out there because I have no idea whether they're available. I don't want to send Tom on a wild goose chase. But he was the one who originally brought up Russ, and I thought, well, that'd be great if you can get him. And luckily, he was able to get him. But yeah, Tom put it together, and I've long admired Russ's work, and seeing what he did with the boys, I thought, yeah, he'd really be perfect for this, because he's somebody who does the sort of spectacular and the mundane with equal sort of expertise.
So, can you speak to what is being offered in the campaign for the book?
Yeah, definitely. There's quite a few really cool extras, including a variant cover by yours truly, which, for better or for worse, they let me draw a cover, but I think it's pretty cool. There's also a variant cover by Matt Bors, a variant cover by, I forget, like a Mike Allred variant or not. But yeah, there's a bunch of variant covers. There's some extra like artwork by Russ. Last but not least, virtual walk of Tom Pyre's luxurious hair.
So, anything else you wanted to make sure that?
If you've ever seen Tom, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, just
I can imagine.
Right. And I just want to add that the campaign is live now, so don't hesitate. Go on Kickstarter now, look up the Forgotten Divine, and you'll see all the levels. You can get a digital copy, you can get a paperback, you can get a hardcover. And I don't think the hardcover like lists signed as an option, but rest assured, I will sign any book that people buy. So get a book if you want it signed. We will get it to you signed.
So is there anything else that maybe we didn't cover about the book that you wanted to make sure that people knew about?
I don't want to say too much about them because I think there's some really good twists and surprises. Although one thing I will say is that because Rodney is a veteran of the Afghanistan War, he was an EOD, so he exploded improvised devices, and that becomes a running metaphor throughout the book because he's always asking himself the question: is this the kind of bomb I can defuse, or is this just something I need to clear the area? Which I think is sort of a metaphor for the question he's asking about himself in this cult. Is this something that can ultimately be diffused, or is it something where it's just going to go off and you just need to get everyone out of the way?
Well, if you want to give one final pitch for the book and a pitch for anything else that you may have on the docket that you want to make sure people know about to check out,
Sure.
And go ahead and do that.
So yeah, like I said, go to Kickstarter and look up The Forgotten Divine. It'll tell you all about it. Also, the volume 1 of Racer X, my sort of noirish crime story involving the older brother of Speed Racer, just came out. So if you're into Speed Racer comics or like Racer X, like myself, go ask your local comic shop about that. They've got them on the shelves right now. And like you mentioned, Dog Tag. Dog Tag is available. Issue 2 is about to drop, I think, in about a week. Issue 1 came out about a month ago, but you can read them all independently. You don't need to have read the last issues, although I think they're all good. So if you get one, you should go back and read the ones that came before.
Well, we will definitely be following the Kickstarter over on Comic Watch in our weekly roundup, which we post on set. Well, this will be on Sunday because that's when I post the interviews, just to kind of keep things separate and not smack people over the head all at once. But
I tried. It's weird because trying to pace out the Kickstarter stuff, I want people to know about it, but I don't want to tweet 10 times in a row about it. So I try to pace it out.
Well, Mark, thank you for taking the time this evening to chat with us briefly, and hopefully I'll get to see you again in person at New York this year.
I would love that. It was good talking to you, Chad.
All right. Well, thanks again, and take care.
You too.